In Germany, an elaborate bank robbery ends in a standoff with police. The lives of 16 hostages hang in the balance. Investigators would soon learn that nothing is as it seems. In 1989, the fall of the wall impacted the city of Berlin in unexpected ways. The promise of a free market economy flooded out, and immigrants flooded in. But skyrocketing unemployment greeted newcomers who found the rewards of capitalism painfully out of reach. Khaled Al Barazi was one such immigrant. A native of Syria, he had been working in radiology at a Berlin hospital. In 1993, he was released from prison on a drug dealing charge and couldn't find work. Desperate for cash and with nothing left to lose, he formulated a brilliant plan that would net millions. He would rob the richest bank in Zellendorf, a wealthy suburb of Berlin. A plan this complex would require help. Khaled recruited his brothers, Muzaffar and Mutaz, as well as his close friend, Durgam Ibrahim. Like Khaled, the men were all out of work. Although it would take months of careful planning, they were eager for a share of the take. On June 27, 1995, when everything was in place, the men put their plan into action. At 10:25 a.m., the peaceful town of Zellendorf was about to become the subject of international headlines. Employees and customers were caught off guard as the gang stormed the lobby. Unnoticed, a teller triggered the silent alarm. The police were on their way. Bettina Eckert was in the bank at the time.
Als die Bankräuber hereinkamen, sagten sie dann zu den Leuten.
When the robbers entered the bank, they shouted at us to get down on the floor. We were frightened. Everyone got down immediately.
The gang held 16 people at gunpoint, 7 bank employees and 9 customers.
Durch meinen Kopf, oder ich habe versucht, Möglichkeiten zu finden, was man tun könnte, die Lage zu erleichtern, vielleicht zu fliehen.
My mind was racing. I tried to think of any way to get out of there alive. How could I flee or overpower the gunman? I kept my mind occupied so I wouldn't panic.
The bank director was secured in his office. The gunman had special plans for him. At precisely 10:30 a.m., police arrived at the Zellendorf bank, effectively trapping the robbers. Robbers who now held 16 hostages. Martin Textor supervised the scene.
Wenn man hört, eine Geiselnahme findet in einer Bank statt, dann ist die erste.
Our first task was to close off the area completely. We were afraid the robbers would flee, and we wanted to make sure nothing happened to endanger the hostages.
In less than 20 minutes, nearly 100 police in bulletproof vests surrounded the bank and evacuated the immediate neighborhood. Armed officers checked all avenues of escape, including a storm drain pipe some 30 meters away. It seemed Khaled's robbery had gone horribly wrong. Trapped inside, Khaled's only means of escape was to try and negotiate. At 11 a.m., Khaled released a hostage with a list of demands. He asked for a car, a helicopter, and a sizable ransom. He gave police 6 hours to meet his demands. They feared that after that, the gunmen might start killing hostages.
Die Forderung der Räuber betrug ja 17 Millionen Mark. Eine ganz schöne Stange Geld, habe ich mir gedacht. Und es war klar, dass wir so viel Geld gar nicht auftreiben.
The robbers demanded 17 million marks, which was an impossible sum.
Gewappnet sein. Natürlich ist Geld vorhanden, allerdings nicht in dieser Größenordnung. Und wir fingen dann in der Befehlsstelle natürlich sofort an, uns Gedanken zu machen, wie wir zumindest an Teilbeträgen...
We gathered as much money as we could and hoped it would be enough.
The freed hostage filled police in on the number of hostages left inside, the number of gunmen, and the type of weapons she'd seen. The list was intimidating.
Es handelte sich um ein belgisches Sturmgewehr,
They had a rifle, 2 pump guns, shotguns, 10 Russian fragmentation grenades, a self-loading pistol, and smoke bombs. It was a regular armory.
Storming the building was not an option. Police could not risk a firefight with hostages inside. Instead, Texter and his men continued to play by the book. They tried to open up negotiations with the hostage takers. Khaled refused to speak with police directly. Instead, he used the very nervous bank director as a go-between.
Das Besondere an dieser Geiselnahme war allerdings...
It made it difficult that we couldn't talk at all with the robbers. It made it impossible to judge their mood.
It seemed Khaled wasn't playing by the rules, and police were running out of time. Optimistic police would give them the helicopter as a means of escape. The men began looting the bank safety deposit boxes. By the time darkness fell around 7 p.m., the deadline came and went. The police were still racing to meet the gang's demands.
Wir haben uns darauf vorbereitet, zuzugreifen, wenn wir eine Flucht zulassen.
We prepared for a pursuit in the event the robbers tried to drive away. We got the helicopter in place as they requested. All of this took time.
At 8 p.m., nearly 10 hours into the standoff, Khaled told police through the bank manager he would wait no longer. He said unless their demands were met soon, they were going to start shooting hostages.
Wir hatten keine Chance, die Zustände im Inneren der Bank tatsächlich zu...
Whenever we asked the bank's director for any information, the line went dead. So we really didn't have a clue about what was going on inside the bank.
To show he meant business, Khaled put the intended victim on display. Police started making concessions. They gave the gang a partial payment, all the money they could gather in exchange for more time. At 9:30 p.m., nearly 12 hours after the standoff began, 2 unarmed police officers approached the bank. Khaled had ordered them to deliver 5.6 million Deutschmarks, nearly $2.5 million, wearing only their underwear. Gunfire suddenly erupted inside, and the bank went dark.
Bis dahin noch gar nicht hatten. Und
When
als
we
der
heard the
Schuss dann
shots,
fiel,
I was immediately afraid they had shot one of the hostages.
police feared that in not meeting Khaled's demands, they had made a deadly mistake. In Berlin, police feared a hostage scenario at a prominent bank had turned deadly. The news media crowded the scene, awaiting word of the 15 remaining hostages. At 1 a.m., the robbers informed police that the hostages were alive. They had simply shot out the lights. Although they were reassured, anxious hours would pass without further word from the gunmen. Police feared for the hostages' lives. They knew they could not wait much longer. Nearly 17 hours since the standoff began, police received a call from inside the bank. The bank manager told them it had been almost 2 hours since he'd last seen or heard from the captors. It was the lull the SWAT team unit had been waiting for.
Bis die Spezialeinheiten eindringen können und insbesondere mit ihren Waffen die Treppe vom Keller nach oben so absichern können, dass die Täter keine Chance haben, an die Geiseln ranzukommen.
When officers convinced me that they could storm the bank in a short time, and with a relatively low level of risk for the hostages, I gave the go-ahead.
At 3:30 a.m., they stormed the bank. Not knowing if it was a trap, the police treated everyone like a suspect.
Relativ rüde umgegangen, weil wir annehmen mussten,
We couldn't be sure that the robbers hadn't mixed themselves in among the hostages. We had to assume that the gunman could be anywhere.
The hostages were cleared of suspicion and removed from the building. Police believed they'd soon have the gang cornered. But as they carefully moved from one darkened room to the next, they found nothing but plundered safety deposit boxes. It seemed as if the gunmen had simply vanished into thin air, taking millions of Deutschmarks with them. It would take them over an hour to solve the mystery. The police had been the victims of an elaborate ruse. The gang had escaped beneath their very feet.
Wir haben zu keinem Zeitpunkt damit gerechnet, dass die Täter etwa durch den Keller über einen Fluchtweg vorbereiten könnten.
We never guessed the robbers had a prepared escape route. We checked every way out. We even had the sanitation departments and the sewer plans for the area, and we saw that the closest pipe was 30 meters away. It never crossed our minds they could tunnel out.
In the tunnel, police found the captors' discarded masks, weapons, and overalls, but not a trace of evidence to help them identify the robbers. It appeared the gang had gotten away with the perfect crime.
Wir melden uns noch einmal, meine Damen und Herren, Sie
The following day, news of the daring heist spread throughout the country. As police were trying to piece together the scant clues, the press marveled at the clever robbery. Those who lived through the ordeal were angered the criminals were made into heroes. Though no one was physically harmed, the mental torture was long-lasting. Reporter Mechthild Hennecke covered the story.
Also die Geiseln haben auf der Pressekonferenz eben betont,
Many of the hostages suffered from nightmares and insomnia.
diese Geiselnahme, dass sie nach wie vor
One woman
unter
said that
Albträumen
she thought, "This is it for me. I'm going to die here."
Police asked the hostages for help in identifying their captors, but they could not. The men always wore masks and seldom spoke. They hadn't left any clues, not even a fingerprint. The tools found in the tunnel were untraceable. The minivan they had used in the robbery had been stolen the night before. The bank estimated the loss at 4 million Deutschmarks. The 5.6 million marks police handed over brought the total to 9.6 million marks, or $4.3 million. Police surmised it must have taken months to build the elaborate tunnel, which extended from the bank to a nearby storm drain pipe and on to a nondescript garage some 200 meters away. The crooks had to have transported tons of dirt. An operation this size was sure to raise suspicions in the neighborhood. Neighbors revealed they'd seen 3 men driving the same car in and out of the garage several times a day. The garage owner told police that he rented the garage to a man almost a year and a half ago. He assisted a sketch artist with a likeness. It turned out the renter's business card had both a fake name and address. Composite sketches of the 3 men were publicized in newspapers and on television. Nothing happened. Police set up a hotline for the public to call with information about the robbery. Again, nothing happened. After 2 weeks of getting nowhere, the bank offered a 1/2 million Deutschmark reward. Only then did hundreds of leads pour in, over 400 in a matter of days. One of the calls led police to a Syrian immigrant named Khaled Al Barazi. During the course of a 3.5-hour interview, Al Barazi broke down and admitted his involvement in the heist. Although he had not been one of the gunmen, he had helped build the tunnel and transport the loot. In exchange for a deal from prosecutors, he broke all confidences and revealed the name of the gang's leader, Khaled Al Barazi. Khaled had developed an ingenious plan, but he needed more than the help of his family to make it a reality. That's why he recruited unemployed men he barely knew like Al Barazi to help dig the tunnel. With enough manpower in place, the gang started making real progress. But it would be more than a year before they could put their plan in motion. The men dug around the clock. To avoid detection, they dumped truckloads of dirt outside the city. Khaled carefully thought through every aspect of his plot. He obtained plans for the city's sewers and storm drains. He designed the tunnel to connect with a drain pipe about halfway to the bank, saving the men months of digging. Less than a meter in diameter, it stopped only 30 meters from their target. As the men dug the last 30 meters, cave-ins and flooding slowed their progress. But their desperation kept them burrowing closer and closer to the bank. After 18 months of non-stop digging, the tunnel stretched over 200 meters. It ended less than a meter from the bank floor. With all the hard work behind them, the gang was ready to move.
Auch sonst waren die Gangster gut vorbereitet. In die Bank stürmten sie mit sogenannten Pumpguns.
From outside the Zellendorf bank branch, police were convinced they were dealing with a robbery gone wrong. Inside, Khaled's plan worked like clockwork. The police played into his hand at every turn. Indeed, while police were scrambling to save the hostages, Khaled and his men were inside the bank feeding them sandwiches. Khaled had thought of everything. As a bank robber, he was as thorough as he was considerate. Khaled planned for the long wait, and by drawing out the bargaining game with police for over 16 hours, he and his gang bought themselves enough time to loot the safe deposit boxes and exit the bank. While the gang members moved bags of cash through the storm drain, the police were still trying to devise a plan to end the standoff. Back at the garage and safely outside the police perimeter, the men split some of the money. They hid the rest. Al-Karmi made it home in time to see the final chapter of the standoff play out on TV. The nation's fascination with the story only added to the sense of having pulled off the perfect crime.
Khaled Al Barazi.
But the intricate plot crumbled when Al-Karmi, the outsider, gave up his new friends. Days after Al-Karmi's confession, undercover agents tracked down and arrested Khaled and his brothers. 2 other suspected gunmen were picked up the following day. Still, the police needed evidence to prove their involvement. While the men were being questioned, investigators searched their homes. They found evidence that their suspects had been spending a great deal of money lately. And there had been some big-ticket items on their shopping list. The suspects, who were all unemployed, had gone out and purchased luxury cars. Police had the gang in custody, but they still hadn't recovered the money. They got a tip it was still in Germany, in the attic of a Syrian dentist. There they found a suitcase containing 3.6 million Deutschmarks. The dentist also led them to an additional 1.4 million Deutschmarks stashed in 2 bank accounts. The following year, Al-Karmi and the men he turned in went to trial.
Das waren einfach kleine Gangster.
Ultimately, they were small-timers. They didn't have the kind of criminal psyche that it takes to withstand tough questioning.
At trial on April 16, 1996, Al-Karmi confessed to his role in the heist. His cooperation won him a 6-year prison sentence. Khaled Al Barazi received 13 years for masterminding the heist. Despite his careful planning, he had not counted on Al-Karmi's betrayal. The rest of his gang was also sentenced. Police have never recovered all the money stolen from the Zellendorf safety deposit boxes. Millions of hidden Deutschmarks may await the release of a gang of small-time bank robbers with a very big plan.